So we're here with Jen Seifert. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you coming out and talking with Newswatch. So can you tell us a little bit, just some background on what is it, the Southeast Advocacy Outreach
Survivor Advocacy Outreach Program, SAOP is what we say. So we're a confidential rape crisis center that serves 7 counties in Southeast Ohio. So that includes Athens, Hocking, Perry, Morgan, Vinton, Gallia, and Meigs. So really kind of the entire Southeast Ohio region minus a few of the counties. And so what we do is provide advocacy services and prevention education to our communities. And the advocacy services we provide to survivors of sexual violence, domestic violence, and stalking. So most kind of relational type violence, we will work with someone to help with medical issues, legal issues, oftentimes, accompanying those folks to court. If that's the path they should choose, we can, help people report to law enforcement if that's what they would choose. But we also operate a 24-hour crisis line, and that's available to anybody to call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to get in touch with an advocate. So if they want to learn more about our resources, or if they want somebody to talk to, that line is always available, and someone will answer.
Wonderful. Yeah. So ever since the start of this academic school year, and we know that SAOP is not just limited to Ohio University, but there has been an increase in sexual assault cases on campus. And have you guys seen, I guess, an increase in the overall region, or do you think it's very much kind of secluded within the Ohio University realm?
Yes. Well, unfortunately, these sexual assault, domestic violence, and stalking happen every day in our communities. The reality is it looks oftentimes very different in our communities than it does on campus. So, in our communities, it's lower socioeconomic status folks, perhaps those that are struggling with addiction, those that are previously incarcerated. It's kind of a very different dynamic, and the relation-based violence and even sex trafficking is more prominent in our communities, which doesn't map well onto a lot of the campuses in our communities, just because it's a very different demographic. So the emails and things and the reports are certainly unsettling to many because it highlights this and kind of brings to our awareness this issue, but the unfortunate reality is this has been happening, and a lot what we know is that these were occurring. There's just more reports, so it's hard to say that there's really an increase, just because that would require to have good data, basically, and for a lot of reasons people don't report, and we understand that. But it has really, people are talking about it and they're aware, and that is something, right, that I won't discredit or say that isn't really important. But we do this every day, right? So it's kind of, while those emails are certainly kind of triggering, it's to us, we're like, it's like just another day of work, which I know doesn't make people feel really good, because that's even like a worse feeling than but it is the reality. So, campuses do have some, like all campuses across the United States can have kind of cultural expectations that might increase the risk for people to be, for not only perpetrators to enact sexual violence, but for people to become survivors. But those risk factors, the risk factors that are present in our communities oftentimes look different, like the ones I mentioned, lower SES, addiction, things like that really increase the likelihood. So
you said that it's very much just kind of another day at work when you see these emails that are going around that are specific to Ohio University, and that could be exhausting, I'm sure. So do you partner with any kind of local businesses or organizations to help you guys to either, spread awareness or help your clients? Any kind of partnership at all?
Yeah, so we have a 7-county service area, so I don't know how much time we have, but we have a lot of partners in our different areas. A lot of prosecutor-based victims service programs allow us to use space in their office in kind of our counties. But in Athens in particular, we've had a lot of support from organizations historically, and then also a lot more recently. So some organizations that have historically been very supportive: Village Bakery, Jackie O's, the Free and Accepted Masons, the Paramuthia 25, I believe, is there. They've been really supportive in doing fundraisers for us. And then last April we had a Turn the Town Teal event. So a lot of uptown kind of agencies have really stepped forward, at least for that event, but even more recently. Lots of Pizza had a fundraiser on our behalf, and those are just kind of businesses, people that have been kind of helping us raise money. Mm-hmm. But partnership organizations, at least at OU, the Survivor Advocacy Program, we partner a lot in terms of, they serve currently enrolled students, and then everyone else in the community. We can serve currently enrolled students as well, but it's just better because they're kind of within the university structure. It's helpful if a survivor is needing any sort of advocacy within that. They're a much better fit in terms of doing that type of advocacy, at least at OU.
Right.
Yeah.
So it seems like a lot of local businesses are very open to helping and spreading awareness. But what can the individual do? What are some signs maybe that people can look for in other people that may show they may need to reach out to people like you,
Mm-hmm.
or just that need help in general? Sure.
So trauma can look a lot of different ways. And for some people, if something has happened, let's just, a scenario of a violent episode, whatever that looks like, whether it's an intimate partner or a stranger. For someone, it could be intense episodes of anger. For other people, it could be they're really sad. Some people can't sleep, some people sleep a lot. So what I typically say is kind of a drastic change in someone's behavior could be an indicator of a lot of things. Perhaps that person is struggling with depression or anxiety, but oftentimes trauma can look like that. It's kind of someone who is very social suddenly is not being as social, right? It's like kind of maybe an extreme change in someone's kind of personality or disposition can be an indicator that there might be something going on.
Right.
And the level of just providing support and not being pushy, and people don't want to seem like they come off as pushy,
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes survivors are told that they need to report, or they need to go to the hospital, or they need counseling by people that are trying to be helpful. But the reality is that can be very disempowering,
Mm-hmm.
to tell people what they need and what's appropriate for them in that moment. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have a friend or someone that that is struggling with a trauma such as this, really the best thing to do is to try your hardest to empower that person to make the best choice for themselves at that time,
Mm-hmm.
because that can change. And it can, this is about their journey and where they are at, so it's about meeting someone where they are and not saying you have to tell the police, because that's one of the conversations I think that has happened a lot is several of the emails, the reports were anonymous, and I think that was quite unsettling to some people because they thought, well, if you don't come forward, how are we ever going to know? And the reality is there's a whole lot of reasons why someone might not want to come forward and make a report to law enforcement. Because as we've seen with some more public issues of sexual violence, let's just say the survivor isn't always treated that well, right? So it's a big choice. It's a big decision for someone, and just remembering that, they have to manage their trauma and work through that. Like,